John, great to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. So let's begin our journey with this. I always start with this because it's such a big pivot point for everybody. COVID, 6 years ago, changed everything. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you work and live today?
Oh, that's interesting. So for me, I was a police officer at that time. So COVID was kind of it was strange for me because my everybody was locked down, obviously in the city and everything. As far as my wife's a teacher, so she was off school. The kids were out of school, but I was still very much reporting to work and working longer hours than even longer hours than usual, but for the most part the same as I would in my whole career. But yeah, the expectation for us was still being out there, still engaging, still making sure that we were trying to protect ourselves, but business as usual, still investigating crime, still investigating, and trying to keep people safe in a sense, but under all those precautions that were expected of us. And so it was tough. But I would say that the way it changed was just that I think we take a lot of things now. We took a lot of things for granted that we just know now we just live a little differently. I think now we're seeing things differently, and that's basically it. I don't think much has changed. I've retired from the police department since then, so not much has changed. Everyone's back to work, back to school. I feel like things are back to somewhat normal, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, no, I totally get it. So let's get into this life kind of after police work and retirement. I'm going to
cool.
put you in front of 13-year-olds. You're at career day, and one of the kids wants you to explain what you do for a living. How do you do that?
When you ask me that, do you mean as far as a police officer or now what I do?
Yeah, you could touch on what you did before
Okay.
as kind of a touchstone, but like especially what you're doing now.
Sure. So what I did do before as a police officer, I did 20 years, went through different departments and ranks and stuff. I was an investigator, I was a media relations officer, worked in internal affairs, worked in narcotics, stuff like that. For the most part of my career, it's been a lot of investigative work, probably a little bit more than half my career, and most of it also being a supervisor. But once I retired, which was in 2021, right after COVID started, basically January 2021, I retired. I wanted to do something else. I still wanted to help people. I still wanted to be involved in service. And so I've always been interested in, I guess, the mental health aspect of things. That was something that even 10 years earlier, I was thinking about going back to school for. It just wasn't feasible with work, with the scheduling and stuff like that to go back at that time. But I took the opportunity to once I retired. So I went back to school, started a program online for my master's in social work. It took about 2.5 years to complete. Did a couple internships during that time that were part of the program. And then once I completed that, just got my license from New York State, get to be a licensed master social worker, and immediately started working in a private practice. In that field of social work, you kind of have to work for somebody for several years, gaining enough hours before you can take another test that allows you to be an independent clinical social worker where you can work on your own. So I'm still in that phase now, but I've been working now for a little over about 2.5 years in the private practice for a group practice and working with people, children of all different diagnoses, mostly depression, anxiety, bipolar, things like that, PTSD, a lot of trauma involved stuff, children, emotional dysregulation, uh, behavioral issues, things like that. There's some autism, some ADHD, but it's very broad. It's not a specific niche that we work with in this area.
I would figure after retirement, you would want to have a break from all of those, right? All of the rigors of what you dealt with for all those years. But it seems like what happened is you saw what the endemic root of what was going on was. Is that kind of why you're in this world of helping, kind of maybe preventing this from becoming crime?
Yeah, that's an interesting, definitely way of looking at it. I think I've always just been interested in human behavior, just from the criminal justice aspect. Also, went for my bachelor's degree, even just before becoming a cop, and criminal justice and criminology, that type of stuff, and why people do things. But then the part of just mental health, I think it hit me a lot while I was on the job, as far as seeing a lot of different things of um, especially suicides. That was always a tough thing. I always felt was a little strange going to those scenes and seeing how people got to a point where, they can get to that place in their life where where they took their own life and stuff, and in strange ways, the harshest of ways to do it. So I just always thought that that was going to be my my thing in this field of mental health, which is, get my degree, get my license, work, and then eventually kind of branch off to really helping veterans, first responders, um, and that type of target population, and suicide awareness and that type of stuff.
Did Since COVID has happened, the idea of mental health, there's been a spotlight that's been put on it that's different. Has it
Sure.
made it a little bit easier in this world of people to grasp onto that and to want help and to accept help?
I would say I think so because of the fact that COVID really opened up a lot of different things for video like health, like Zoom type
Yeah.
of. And I think that was a lot of the maybe whether it's stigma or just the uncomfortableness of doing something like therapy, people being in person and feeling shame and stuff like that. But what people needed during that time, it became apparent, right? And very, especially with the children and stuff like that. So I think people took advantage of it and more so, and it's now much more accessible. I mean, we do it in our practice too, which, people just want it through Zoom or don't want to, it's not a problem. It's the same exact process. And so I think people are more open to it. I think there's still a lot to go, but I think the stigma and the shame of it is, definitely decreasing. I see people coming in now that same thing, cops and stuff that you would probably 5, 10 years ago would never think of being at that point where they would, go through that process, but they are much more willing and, you know.
Yeah. What did you want to be when you were a kid? When you were that age at career day, what was your dream gig?
I don't remember having one until knowing that when I was in high school, wanting to be a cop.
Yeah.
I think that was I don't remember exactly maybe where at that point, maybe, 15, 16 years old. I was probably watching a bit too many cop shows in the 90s and stuff that were turning me on to the field. But I knew once I was about to graduate high school, I knew I wanted to go to John Jay College, which was in the which is in New York City. It's criminal justice college. And I kind of had my sights set on that from the beginning. But I did take a semester off. I joined the reserves for the Marines first and did all my training in one semester boot camp and all my specialty schools, and then came back and was in the reserves, and then went to, started college. So
So, what did you see growing up? What were the seeds that were planted early on in your life that made you eventually want to get into police work and helping people and investigating? What were those early things that got seeped in consciously or subconsciously that became your career?
I think my father was a Vietnam veteran. I think that kind of always had I had an interest in that and what that was, and just being in the service and the military. He was in Vietnam, and so that was always interesting to me. I didn't know if I or thought that I would ever do it, but that was interesting to me. But I would say I think a lot of it just comes from upbringing and family. We were Catholic family. My mother was a strong Catholic. We went to Catholic school. I think we had that background. Two supportive parents who, for all the work. My mother would stay at home, but then my mother, as my siblings and I got a little older, like in our close to the teenage years, she went back to school. She wanted to get into the workforce, and she became a teacher. And I think seeing that like discipline and stuff at her age to go back to school for both bachelor's and master's degree, and taking her, years and years to do all that before she even got to the point where she was working. I think, yeah, all those things were more like the subconscious type of things, is seeing the work ethic and helping people and wanting to be in those different fields.
So, who's been your hero? Who's been that inspirational force in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I guess easy to say, I would say my mom. She's
Yeah.
just typical, always there for everything, always there to, do anything and be there for everything, and put aside anything for us. And so, yeah, I mean, it's very simple for that one.
So, talk to me a little bit about if you can meet anybody on the planet right now that you find inspirational, whether it's in your field, in police work, or otherwise, that you would love to hang out with, and it might help you on your journey right now. Is there anyone you would love to meet and talk to?
I guess that'd be hard because I guess it depends on the field. But if I had to pick one, I guess, and not for reasons of like politics or anything like that, but I would say maybe Elon Musk. I
Okay.
think just an incredible like just story of the just foresight of being able to do these things and maintain this ability, this discipline to get these things done. I find it amazing. I read a lot about these people. I like to read a lot, so I like to read about biographies of people and stuff like that and how they just accomplish these things and stuff. And I find that incredible, just the motivation and the discipline to get these things
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
So I'm curious in the line of police work, we've had some air bubbles with things that have happened within the last 10 years in this country that's reflected badly on all the police officers. How did New York roll with that national wave of things that would happen?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess if I had I would challenge that and say I think it's opposite just from my perspective because a lot of the heat is in New York.
Right.
We had a lot of the different protests, and we always have protests going on here, whatever day of the week it is. But
Yeah.
just through the Floyd, it's right after COVID, and the perspective of police right now is very very heated, and I think it's dangerous because I think that because of that, I think there is a level of police work of maybe cops even being coming onto the job that are not necessarily as motivated to do what maybe I felt like I did and the guys around me would do at that time 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And so I think there is a lot of heat on them. Even just things like making a mistake and the prosecutors, the DAs are looking to just completely, put all their resources in trying to get that cop, disciplined in jail and stuff like that. I think there's a lot going on in New York, and so
So, and the other thing about 20, 25 years ago is that people weren't filming everything. You didn't
sure.
have this explosion of people just putting stories out where people believe it. That's one of the things that's the most reckless right now is that the journalism, the idea of journalism is eroded away. Someone
Yes.
can post something online and make it seem like it's real. All these people start believing it. And then you probably have it's like the political climate we live in right now. Like
Yeah.
no one knows what the truth is. There's
Right.
nothing corroborated.
Right. The truth is a snippet of a video, which
Yeah.
not to say that that's not going to be the story or anything like that, but society just wants to jump to a conclusion right away. There is no more interest in an investigation or in that type of process anymore. It's just people just want to you know pretty much put the heavy hand on cops right away, and I think it's dangerous, like I said, because it's changing the aspect from an internal perspective of policing that I think that they're just not doing as much, because they're afraid of what it could lead to. I say now, and I thought I'd never say it in my life, which is that I probably wouldn't persuade or want my son to do it right now.
Yeah.
Like when he got to that age, because of the what's going on, I would probably say that there's something different for you because it's too dangerous you can make a mistake. It's not you doing something intentionally. You just make a mistake and nobody has your back.
Yeah.
The department doesn't have it. The DA doesn't. The media definitely doesn't have it, and definitely the prosecutors don't. So it's just not a good time.
So, what was the motivation for you? You talked about suicide. You probably saw a lot of really horrific things with humanity. What made you get up every day and put the uniform on? Stay hopeful, stay optimistic, do your job at a high level. What was that for you?
I think before family, it would just be. Um, it was just always very interesting to me, to begin with, like just being involved in criminal investigations and that we always use the term that it's the greatest show on earth is first front row seat to the greatest show on earth because it truly is. You just see so much and involved in so much, not even just bad, good stuff too, like all the different things that you would be, going to the World Series to work or going to or other aspects of things that other people just wouldn't normally be able to see, and you're there working it, but getting able to experience it. So I think just the experience, I mean, just the interest in what the job was always something that kept me motivated. But then once you start having, a family and growing that family, like those priorities change to you feel like you are doing something for your city, for your community, for like you are putting something into it to try to hope that you're making the world a little bit better place for them and safer for them and stuff like that. So that's definitely a motivating factor once that personal dynamic enters your life.
Well, and I think about yesterday, the World Cup being in New York and big events, and there's always got to be security there. Did you work a big game? Have you worked a World Series or a big event like that?
Yes. What did I do? You mean during my career? You're
Yeah,
asking?
yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, sure. Trying to think of this thing. Well, first of all, Times Square was always a kind of a given. Those type of things. The World Series for the Yankees, I think it was. I can't remember what years they were. Maybe 2008, 9. I can't think if. I was in the academy during 9/11. I was actually in the police academy. We started July of 2001, and obviously September hit, and they took us out of the academy. We actually were not in training for about 6 weeks. We were just out, and so all those different things of being involved with the 9/11, um, different uh, things going on for that. But yeah, different events with um, a lot of things going on in New York. The
yeah.
UN General Assembly, all those different things with the dignitaries coming in, working those type of intelligence, type of security details. Yeah, well, just a lot of stuff.
That has to be huge because you get a back seat or a front seat, I should say, of just how life works and how intricate things are. Like I know when presidents come to Kansas City, they have to close highways and they have to inspect all the bridges, and there's an enormous amount of detail that now, like even
Yeah.
with Trump going to that Knicks game, like the
Yes. Yeah.
amount of
Yeah.
security detail, like for you to be able to see that firsthand, your knowledge and wisdom of how this life works has to just be exponentially mushroomed to see all that.
Yeah, yeah, I think so because like you said, there's a lot of working parts. A lot of it you're involved in, but probably more than a lot you're just like you said witnessing. But yeah, even the game three of the Knicks with the people were complaining, still complaining about that, where uh, taking them 4 and 5 hours to get to the city, which was something that would take 30, 40, 45 minutes, to go to a Knicks game or yeah, a regular playoff game even. But yeah, it's just because they shut down everything and. But yeah, you see a lot of working parts with not just the police department, but the all the different city agencies, but even then, of course, working with directly with Secret Service. That's a big component. The NYPD is always attached to them, hand in hand with the different things, highway patrol and how they coordinate the different motorcades and stuff like that to shut down the roads. And yeah, it's very interesting. And
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight and you ran into the 18-year-old version of you and there was a highlight reel, a film projector played a highlight reel on the wall and it was 60
oh,
seconds, would that young version of you believe your life turned out this way?
yes and no. I think I would say like anyone else. No, because it probably is sound when you compile it, probably sounds more now exciting of what all the things I've been able to do or see you be a part of. But I guess there's always that aspect of was I expecting a little bit more with something or a little bit. But for the most part, I would say yeah, that yeah, I wouldn't expect it to turn out with this with all the different things that I've been a part of and tried to do for my.
So what are you the proudest of or the happiest about in that highlight reel?
Um. I mean, personally, it would definitely just be family. I mean, I
Sure.
think just to have the personal. But if you're talking more professionally,
Yeah.
um, trying to think of a specific part of my career. I guess that was I enjoyed the final 3 years of my career with where I was the sergeant of the detective squad for the a precinct in Staten Island, which was I felt the most. Uh, it was just the most fun I've had, the most exciting to be involved in those investigations. We had a big investigation with like a mafia, a guy getting killed, and and he was our investigation and being involved with that and getting to that arrest and that investigation, how we figured it out and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, that was probably the best part of my professional career. The most fun and the most exciting to be involved in.
So when you talk about cracking cases like that, I think about the plethora of cases that you all saw.
Mm.
And you see these shows where there's dumb criminals. If you had to do a pie chart of all of the things that you solved, how much of these people were just dumb and didn't like they just totally slipped, or how much of it was they were really smart and they just got caught?
No, I mean, I'm obviously probably going to exaggerate or really give it a false percentage here, but I would say 99% of them are just dumb. There's, there's, I mean, there's no what you watch on TV and stuff. It's not as, these most of the criminals or the people that are involved in that type of lower level stuff are really just recidivist type people constantly, there's it's addiction, it's different things in their life that they just can repeat the same type of patterns of criminal behavior. But a lot of it too is unfortunately still a problem, and it's always, I guess, been a problem and still going to be with domestic violence is just a terrible thing to see and be a part of. But we being definitely in the detective squad, we the same people, the same people coming through with the domestic violence, and nothing ever changes. They never really get fully consequences of from the law. There's not much that they get handed to them, and maybe usually the female victim would stay within the relationship, and just it was just a constant revolving door of domestic violence, the same people. But yeah, most criminals are not like it's not like TV with the
Right.
the way that they put together and they're able to. It's just mostly things that are done spontaneously, like the crime, like things like assaults and stuff like that.
Sure. So let me ask you this. After all of this time retiring from the force, doing the work that you're doing now, the social work, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you in different bubbles, but you're the driving force. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I just made that identity commitment a long time ago that I just want to be someone who continually feels like I am doing something that actually, I don't know, is doing my part to enhance society in the sense of in a positive way. So whether that's just, you know, being a cop or doing something, or being in the military or now doing something that helps people in their struggles, and it's just, I don't have the answers for everything. Obviously, it's just more of I just want to be a part of something bigger than myself that hopefully can help somebody. I definitely would have never saw the social work part of my life if you was when you said it, like the highlight reel and things like that. Like maybe the military part and the cop part I could have predicted or been but this part of my life I probably never would have predicted going into something like this. It's not something that most people would see a cop or a military person going into to be a provider in this so this was probably the most strange part of my choices I guess to do.
Yeah. So, John, if anybody wants to reach out, they want to hire you, they want to get into this world of social work, how do they do that? Where do they go?
Yeah. Yeah, I just have the typical handles like on I have a website www.centerfidelis.com. My handles on Facebook are just that too, Center Fidelis, TikTok and Instagram also at Center Fidelis.
Okay. I will make it easy. I will put links in the show notes. What a great story. Thank you so much for taking a minute out
Thank
today.
you so
Best of
much.
luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Yes, sir.